I've updated some of the things, so I try to make it a little bit easier. So there's wait, are you using the updated version or the legacy version? Just to make sure I'm using the right one. Okay, so this is the normal version, the current version we're using. These are the so this one is the updated version. This is the legacy version. So this one will never be updated ever again. Same thing with this one. This one will never be updated again. So these two, the legacy and legacy are tied together, or they're the same thing. The backtest and ORB Pro, or these are tied together. So just to kind of lay that out there. Some people wanted the old version of each one, so I just decided to do like that. So no matter what, this will never, those legacy versions will never be updated. Okay, so we added to the chart. So this is set up for the default settings are set up for this data. So this backtest data right here, it's going to be slightly different now, obviously, because of the 29th was the last trade for this one for this backtest. But so that's this. Those are those settings. So if you, so the first thing I would say, first things first, this needs to be tuned to your risk profile. So I'm sure you guys know how the risk profile works, like how it uses this as a kind of like where the higher end trades will go. So if you set it to 1,000, it'll like the higher setups like the A, the B plus will use about $1,000, and then they'll trickle down from there. Same thing, you set it to 375, it'll go over, but it won't be like crazy. It won't be like, it won't go $600. It'll be like maybe like 400 and something would be like the highest it would go. And then it trickles down from there. It goes from, you know, the highest amount, then it'll taper down as the grade decreases. So that'll be that. And then you can adjust the grade from whatever you want. Everything else is exactly like the indicator as far as the settings. Settings are mirrored. They are defaulted to be the exact same. So if you do adjust something, say if you want to try something in here, you say, okay, I like 15 instead. You just need to go and change that to the indicator so it will reflect. But if you delete this, if you delete the indicator and re-add it, everything will go back to default settings. Okay, so yeah, you just do static. No, that's not a problem. I don't think I have a static setting, but the only thing I would change is the P&L, the win rate. Everything else will stay exactly the same. Those don't change based off the risk, the profit factor, and drawdown. Well, the drawdown I think will be affected. If you want, I could add a static. If that would help you, I could add a static where it'll basically ignore the grading, and it'll just say, hey, it says I put in 1,000. It'll just be like a static. Would that help? Instead of a dynamic. So do you do like static for like A, B, and C, or like how are you? Let me see. How are you doing it? Okay, yeah, I can add a setting where it goes to static. Like if you want it to be like a static setting, like where just basically you put in say you put in $500, it would just risk $500 for every trade. If that would help. And then okay, so okay, yeah, this should be pretty simple. Let me look into that. So running a back test. Once you have everything you want to test or everything you want to do, so you go into here. Say you just want to run just default settings. You know, to make it simple. And then you know, everything looks good. You know, everything looks fine. So how the actual running the backtest. So what you want to do is pick your time frame. Depending on your trading view plan will kind of determine how far back you can go. I have premium. I have to have premium for hosting the indicators, but say you want to do a year. So the trick with this indicator is that you need to go about 2 months prior. So like when I run a full 5-year backtest, I need to go to, when I want to start at 2020, I start at November 1st. Why that is it needs a warm-up period for the EMAs, just because they update technically live. It can actually skew some of the early trades. That's what I have found in testing the backtesting data. How I figured this out was I'd run a 5-year backtest and a 1-year backtest, and from the 1 year, when the 1 year started and the 5-year, like how they like line up, that first 2 months, or the first, like, I think it was 30 sessions, about 30 sessions, would never line up. But after that, they would line up. And then I kept testing that. So I figured out it was the EMAs are having trouble, because it basically starts data from that date on, and then it starts seeing like where the EMAs are, and then it's just a weird trading view quirk. So I figured out that if you start it 2 months prior, it lines up. It works the best. So for you, all you have to do is just do, like, if you're gonna start at the beginning of the year, just go to like November 1st. And so what the indicator will do, it will ignore those trades. So as you see here, okay, so it started a little bit too early, but it starts on, oh, actually I messed up. There you go, November 1st. Okay, so this is the whole backtest data, but like once it loads, you'll see when it starts, it will actually ignore November, all of November and pretty much all of December, and start around the 1st of the year. You may need to adjust, but if that's kind of like the rule of thumb, just go back like 2 months, you should be good. There we go. So since I did start it on the 1st of November 2019, but it ignores those first basically 2 months of sessions, and then here we go. And then that's how we get the roll. Basically, it just lets the EMAs warm up, and that's pretty much it. That's how you get the data. So you can do this. With this, what I found is the more data, the better. So I wouldn't really go with the smaller time frames. You can, but just give it like a 2 months, and you should be fine. You can do 1 year, you can do 6 months, you can do 3 months, but just give it that extra time. So if you're gonna do like a month, you just make sure you just go 2 months prior, and it'll work. Let's see. Was there anything else in particular you needed to go over? Curve? Oh, sorry. I just saw curve. Yeah, we can go over that. So there's a couple ways we can look at it. So here we go. Simple way you can see here. So this is our curve. There's our equity curve. Pretty solid. I mean, honestly, it's a very, very, very linear line. It's pretty much, straight up. It's not straight up, but it's it's going up. It's not really going down. You obviously do have these downward times. Was there something in particular? So if we're looking at it, you can definitely see where we had where the drawdown is. Obviously with these areas, you see 2022. I think 2024, I believe. 2020, yeah, right at the end of 2023. You can see that's when we have our biggest hits. You can always tell it's kind of towards the end of the year. It's when we usually have like the rough times. But it's like usually in the later part of the year. That's when we have our a little bit rough. So this is the how you look at the drawdown. If you want to look at like kind of more data, what in particular do you want to see about the equity curve? I don't know if this one could be better or on the actual on this one would be better. Let me make sure. So like this one, pretty much the same thing, but like this. Like how many trades of DD? So like how many trades did it take to get to that drawdown? Is that what you mean, right? So like the batches, so if I can find it. Actually, I do have that data somewhere. Okay, so this is a simple metric. I can go to a little deeper. So like 5 trades that were consistent in a row. But if we look, let me try to say, remember right. I do have it that. Oh, how many losses can you eat? To get to this, okay, so where it took, okay, I get what you're saying. So for this drawdown here, it was 5 to get to that point. I think I know what you're getting at. So from equity, from the total time it took to, yeah, so 5 consecutive. So obviously there could have been like a win, a loss, a win, a loss. You know, there can be things like that. There's other combinations, but 5 losses in a row, like boom, like without taking a win, that's the most it's taken in those 5 years. And so yeah, the biggest drought has been 5. And that's with no risk management. That's no saying, hey, I don't want to take another trade. That's just literally just going full trade. Like I'm gonna trade this. I'm not gonna take any but breaks. I don't have any, like, if I take 3 losses, am I gonna take a break? None of that, because you can just wait a week or wait a couple days and the market bounce back, But yeah, that's the worst. So you can see, like, here it is. Here's our lowest point. But yeah, that was the worst of the worst. Yeah, and you can see it was September. Let's take a look at it. September 2023, or September, August 2025. There we go. August 2025. You can actually take a look at that. I say August 2023, right? August 20. August 2023. Yeah, I mean, there's there's different scenarios. So there's August, so we can figure out where exactly. Here we go. This is a pretty bad section. September. Took 3 losses here, and then took 2 more back to back. See where? Oh, so I'm looking at the wrong way. So here we go. 2 trades. So I'm trying to think where exactly. It probably would have been here. One. See, there's go. 1 and 1. One and 1. So yeah, I'm guessing it's somewhere in this area. So it's like 1, 2. I'm trying to think where we would take 2 losses, but yeah, it'd be somewhere in this area that we took 5 losses. We would have to look at it a little bit deeper. Try to figure out where it was. Yeah, but it's somewhere in here. It's gotta be somewhere in here because 2 trades. Okay, so this is two losing trades. Then 1 losing trade, and then so it's somewhere in here. That's where or possibly in here where we took the 5 losses in a row. Yeah, but 5. So, I mean, 5 is what is taken, but I would say 6, 7. I don't think we should get past that. I mean, can it happen? Yes, but as far as risk management, maybe tapering down the risk, having some type of risk protocol, I think would be, it's always important. This is just the indicator's not looking at drawdown. It's not looking at drawdown protocol. Not saying how many losses did I take. It's just saying when did a valid trade fire, and then take it. So it's just going full 100%. It doesn't care if it only has say you only have $2,000 from drawdown. It doesn't care if it has $1,500. It's in $1,500 of drawdown. It's still gonna fire the same amount every single time. It doesn't have any logic of drawdown protocol. So if you were to step in and say, okay, I don't want to take that trade because, or like I only want to take high quality setups during my drawdown time, then obviously that would definitely affect how many losses you take. But if you just went straight with the indicator, you know, that's what you're looking at as 5 over 5 years. Obviously, you're gonna have some that are like, you know, win, loss. You know, you might take 4 losses then win, but the 5 consecutive losses, that is the most it's taken. Okay, hold on, I think I missed a couple questions. Okay, so let me get this question done, so then we can, like, I'll start getting the rest of them. So the TP1 system, it's looking for levels. So how it's working is that, I just want to make sure, hold on. Yeah, so 5, yeah, it is pretty rare to get 5 in a row. I haven't seen it. I think that was the only time I think I've seen it or gotten close to it. But okay, for the TP process, it works like this. So once a trade is, we get a valid trade, right? Or it doesn't really matter, but a trade, just once a breakout happens, stop loss is formed. Once stop loss is formed, or calculated, I should say, it will look at TP1 and TP2. So what it's doing is first calculating it based on, it has a guard. So what it will first do is make sure TP1 is about, sometimes it's going to be really close. It's going to be like how that one is at 0.9 to 1. So it's slightly underneath a 1 to 1. Obviously, that's the edge of this box. So if you were to take it like down here, it would be 1 to 1. So it has that safeguard. So at first it looks at where it needs to at least be. And then from there, it will scan the chart for key levels. So it'll use round numbers for value gaps, liquidity, like weekly high, weekly low. Look at all those, score them. Then from there, it'll run through, okay, which one is the most likely for a price to hit? And then that's how it picks TP1. Then where is the next strongest level? TP2. And then for the warning level, it'll either be like one of the levels that got scored that was in between TP1 and entry. It'll say, hey, look, this is a really strong level. It didn't meet the criteria for being TP1, TP2, but it's something you should be aware of. And it's usually going to be like a strong key level. So sometimes it'll be here, sometimes it'll be between entry and TP1. Sometimes it'll be in between TP1, TP2. Sometimes it'll be at the same level. It's just telling you, basically, it's just a third level. It calculated within that group and got scored, and it's like, hey, like this is something else we need to be aware of. So sometimes TP1 will be like a 1 to 1.5. It could be a 1 to 1. It could be a 1 to 0.9. It's never going to be a static number, just due to the fact that it's not picking them arbitrarily. It's picking them based on, well, it's picking them based on the minimum requirement for what TP1 distance needs to be. So if you were to adjust this to something smaller or bigger, so I think I can go down to just see what this happened. I don't know if it's actually gonna pick anything. Okay, I think the minimum is maybe that. I don't know if it's gonna adjust it or not. Maybe too close. There we go. Yeah, so it slightly adjusted it. It'll look for other levels that meet the criteria. So same thing if you were to go to like 1.2, it might pick actually the same level, not 100%. I don't know the data is looking for. There you go. So I found another round number that it said, okay, this most likely to go to here. In the backtest data, I have found that 1 has been really, really solid. You can always adjust them as needed. And then for TP2, 1.5 has always been really good. I hope that answered your question about the TP system. That's why it's never static. It always adjusts per criteria. Okay, let me make sure. So if you had the grade, too. So if I had to grade the distribution, what would you grade it? What do you mean exactly by that one? Just want to make sure I get that right. like how it groups the trades. Like how often each one gets a grade, like how many, like if is there more A's and B's and B's and C's and, you know, so on. Yeah, no, there is I mean, so like, so if we look at just like the basis of it, so you can see like how each grade is, you know, how often each one gets a grade. So you see like, you know, these, you obviously these are lower, C's are, you know, just a little bit of kind of an outlier, but you see like it does go in a, you know, pretty much down, except for, you know, this one's a little bit, but it still kind of trickles down. And then you can see by the years, how often we're getting trades. So obviously 2026 a little bit different, but if you actually go to the actual back test, we'll just show 2025. I think that would be like the easiest. Let's go backwards. So, you know, it's not crazy different, but there is like, you know, some bigger months than others. Obviously, like, you know, there's break-even months, but they still stay around, like, for this risk setting, for this risk profile, I would say it's about $1,500. Like, that's kind of like the $1,500 is kind of like the average. So yeah, there's not like a $5,000 month, $6,000 month, and then, you know, rest are losing ones. You know, it's pretty like kind of within that, I would say about $1,200 to $1,500 range. So yeah, there's not like a 1 month that's like carrying the strategy. Like I said, they're break-even months, but usually stayed about $1,500 to like $2K, or sorry, $1,200 to $1,500. Right. Yeah. So like, yeah, so we're gonna go through rough patches, like where it didn't make, but once it's making, it usually stays around that $1,200, $1,500 range. And obviously, like the data shows, like 2020 was an outstanding year. Like we were kind of like in this like average, and then 2020 was absolutely, and we're already on par to beat it. Like we're already at 10,000 for the year. And then, you know, but we were, you know, kind of staying within this average. We weren't like, there's not like a $2,000 year, you know, it still stays within this average. Obviously 2020 was just absolutely crazy, you know, but I think that was for every strategy. Everything was just going in one direction. So it was just like, it was hard not to make money. But for the averaging of like how much it's making, or like, is relatively stable. And as you can see here, for the 77 months, we were profitable 67 of them. So I mean, that's outstanding. Oh, there you go. The simulated monthly average is 1,500. So, or sorry, about 1,100. So I was pretty close, about, you know, the $1,200. I mean, on the timing, yes, it can definitely help us. He's been on our side pretty consistently. Okay, does anyone have any more questions? Then I can kind of I'll go into the settings and everything, and then the updates of the filters and stuff. I think a lot of you guys have seen a lot of pretty much how it works, so. Or if I miss any questions, please let me know. No? Okay. I'll do a quick rundown of just settings real quick, and then go into the updated settings, or the updated things that were added. Okay, so works very quickly. So this is the orb time, so you can put it 5, 10, 15 hour, whatever orb you're trading, the time you want to trade it, or the time amount you want to trade it. Starting time, end time. So this is kind of important because this is set to central time, so it does not matter if you are on a different time zone. You can change this to New York. It does not matter since it is anchored to the 8:30 time zone. It still says 8:30. As you can see here, it says 9:30. So I change it to New York time. Does not matter. So just keep that in mind if you're trading London session, Asia session, any other type of orb. Just make sure it's in line with the Chicago time. I did try to make it so it went to your time zone, but since it does work for CFD, I could not, because it has to be anchored a certain way for it to read it, because it doesn't work the same as futures. So that was like just an issue I had to. It was basically I had to pick my battle there. So just keep that in mind, or whatever time zone I changed. I don't know if it was New York, but anyways. This just shows 30 days. So basically you have this on 30 days. It'll just show 30 days of orbs in the past. It'll just show the visual boxes. Midline, it obviously just shows midline. This will just show the historical lines in the past. These are just, if you want to look at past orbs, just keep everything default. Visual TP boxes. This just changes the size of the boxes. So the time you would want to change this is if you're trading gold or some other another like ticker. That 20 points is a massive. It would be a massive box. So you just want to, like for NQ, 20 points is really nothing. So I have it set to 20. What this does, it will change where the line is. So if you want to like towards the middle, there you go. Or actually, I think it needs to be at 1. And I moved it enough. There you go. That moves it towards the middle, And then as you see, it does adjust this accordingly, so you are more accurate. So now I can see this is like a 1-to-1. I have found that the edge of the box is the best place for it, because it does affect that line is what triggers the P&L system in the internal P&L system. So for it to call it a win, it needs to hit this actual dark, or this line. Same thing with TP2. So if you are using the P&L system, it does affect that. This is, moves position, changes the size. These are pretty much just dashboard stuff. So if you don't want the lines on the chart, you can take those off. I won't go through every single one, but that's, that pretty much turns things on and off. If you want to have the key levels on your dashboard, you can have them on just in case you want to actually have the data. If you don't want to use the dashboard, you can turn that off. Or sorry, the market context. If you don't want to use the dashboard at all, you can turn that off. And you just have that little box. Okay, so this one is kind of important, so I'll turn this off so I have more room. If you want to look at the win rates, you just turn these on. And then that will populate the win rate system. I need to actually turn on TP1. I just turn everything on so it pops up. There you go. I think I need this. Make more room. Okay. So this starts the default 60-day range. I believe. I don't know if you guys can go back, but like I said, since I have premium, I can do 90 days. I don't know if everyone really needs 90 days. This just shows it on the dashboard. But default is 60. I want you to go to 60. It's just how much 5-minute bars you can show on the chart at one time. And then you can go to the advanced P&L system. So this is everything that the indicator has recorded over the past 60 days. It'll mark everything out. There you go. It's a little small, but it shows you all the metrics here. And then, yeah, so that's pretty much it for that. So then if you want to go a little bit deeper into that, there's a export. It's not an export. It just shows you all the trades that it actually took. I have this thing in the way, so it's kind of hard to see. So you can actually look at all the trades that it took. Shows you like the entries, the grade, and everything. So if you were trying to backtest, you're trying to do anything, you could do that. It does show it live. Actually, hold on. It does show it live. So if you were taking a trade, it's gonna be a little hard to see because I have stuff in the way. But I don't know if you can see that. It says open. And this will pop up as soon as you enter the trade. So if you go before, and then you continue on, and there we go. It opened the trade. It has all the information there. And then once TP gets hit, I think it's been hit yet. Or see. There you go. TP was hit, so it records the trade. So if you were trying to backtest or look at some extra data, if you wanted to do that, you can go ahead and do that on the chart itself. So if you're doing like live backtesting and you just want to, the information, it is ready available. Okay. So then win rate, this is what I just went over, win rate cutoff time. So this is basically what time, if a trade opens or if there's a trade that fires after 1 p.m., it will still show it on the chart, but it will not record it into the P&L system. And that is what that is part of the backtesting data. It does not trade after 1 p.m. That's what seemed to work the best. So max trades tracked per session. This is kind of important. So what this will do is it sets to 0. It will track all trades, all valid trades. So a trade cannot be opened if another trade is open. Well, if this is on. So if you have it set to track 2, it will only track 2 trades per session. And then 3 and so on. If it's set to 0, it tracks all. Well, what that means is how the system works. If a trade fires, let's see if I can find an example really quick. It has to be a valid trade. Okay, here we go. So with because these two work together. So realistic trading. So what that means is that if this trade opens, it cannot track another trade unless TP or SL is hit. Stop loss, that's the only way it can release and then track a new trade. If you turn this off, it'll track literally just every trade, which makes no sense because it's like, that's not how you trade. You're gonna open a trade and then the trade's gonna play out and then you move on. So with this on, if this fires, this enters, this trade forms, but it will just ignore it. It will just say, oh, no, we're in this trade, and then once it hits TP, then it's like, okay, we're done with that trade. Then if it were to come back in and then another valid, it could track that one. It will track it. So if you only say you didn't want that, say it was like, I only want to track 1 trade per session, no matter what, win or loss. But it has to be a valid trade. It can't just be like a D setup. It won't track that. It has to be a valid trade. So the same scenario, like say it opened and then it came back down and then it came another breakout and you had it set to 1, it just ignores it. You had it set to 2 and so on. 0 sets, it can track any trade. So if you're trying to get data or trying to look at stuff, that's how it would work. Your EMAs, basically just higher time frame, slow and fast. The average days it'll look at, you can set this from like 1 to, I think it's 3 to 10. It just changes this. This does affect the dashboard. I'll go over that here in a second, but it does affect what this will look at for the grading. Orb tolerance. So these two are tied together. So the 5-day average needs to be within 10% of whatever this number is. So if it's in 10%, it would be green. If it's yellow, it's a little further off. It could be like 12, 13. And then if it's red, it means it's a way too big or way too small. That's just where this comes into play. It's set to 2.5. So if we have a orb that is 2.5 times bigger, it warns you, and it also goes into the grading. So we have a low volume. So this basically tones down everything. It's meant for like London session or Asia session. So you can, if you want to use that, you can mess with it and mess with the settings. It just tones it down. So it lets more through. Minimum orders to track, it is 45 points. I have found in the data, pretty much anything under 50 is not really worth trading, but 45 it gets a safe, gives you safe. So basically, if an orb is under 45 points, it just ignores it. It will still show everything, but it doesn't track it. I just have it set to 0, but it's kind of an optional setting. So if you wanted to have breakouts be over a certain amount of points, it does the same thing where it just, basically it won't show you what it is. So if you set this to, actually it'll still show you, but it won't track it. Let's see. Well, let me go over here. Basically it will treat it like it didn't happen. Like I said, I mean, we might be too low. Anyways, that's how it works. I don't think it's doing the visual one, but it's blocking the trade. But I just have it set to 0. So if you had it set to like 5, it won't track anything over. It has to be over 5 points for it to be a valid trade. I think it's just not doing the visual aspect, but it is blocking the trade. So I have it set to 0. I'll have a good one. Let's see. Just check real quick. Okay, set that to 0. 50 points. So similar thing. So if it's over 50 points, like happened today. Actually, we pretty much saw it happen in real time. This one was over 50 points, so basically it just grays it out, and it doesn't fire. So if you wanted to see this, say like you don't like that setting, all you have to do is change this to whatever number. Say if I went to 80 points. Okay, so this was a counter trend trade. So, but it still would have fired for this one. Let's see. Yeah. So that's basically how you turn that off. So 50 points is what I found to be the best. So now you saw the reason change to 50 points. Max TP distance is 200 points. So it's looking within the 200 points to see where where the max TP you can look for, just so it doesn't think things don't get out of hand. Then we went over this before. TP offset is just moves it up and down. So I've done some testing. So basically, it picks the levels, but it gives me the wiggle room to move them up or down. So I found these to be the best offset. How far back it looks for fair value gaps. So it's when it's looking for TP levels like fair value gaps, like you'll see fair value gap. How far back it's scanning, just looking 20 bars back, and how big it needs to be. Same thing for TP levels. It's when it's scanning, it's looking 40 bars back. This is show the warning level. If you don't want the warning level, you just turn it off. All right, see you later. And then the higher time frame. This is just for extra level of confluence. This will go over basically just an extra layer of looking for extra support and resistance. I have it set to 40, and the swing look back is 40 bars. And then this is just the minimum for stop loss and the maximum. These just so things don't get out of hand. And then the risk, and then the dollar per point. And that's pretty much it for that. So one of the things I added, I'll go over real quick, is the active lock. This is a visual thing. So for active trades, this is completely optional. It does not affect the grading or any aspect like that. But what it does is when you have an active trade and you have it off, once another valid trade happens, this stop loss and TP will move. And if you didn't want that, if you just want to stay locked on to the first one, you have that on. And then it will stay locked onto the first valid trade. So there we go. It moved back, and so now we're stuck here. And then it would only monitor that one on a visual aspect. It'll still be looking at everything in the background, but it'll keep everything on the dashboard and it'll keep everything on the chart the exact same. It only works for valid trades. So if there's an invalid trade, it'll just keep moving on like normal until it gets a valid trade locked in. But for this update, that was one thing I added. But the other big thing I added was the counter trend trade. So to show that, let me turn this off. You can kind of see it real quick. So for counter trend trades, when we are in a weak market and like a weak bull market, a lot of times, obviously not like today, but like here on this trade, it's a good example. Not always going to work, but it is for them from the data. It does support it. So what ends up happening when we have a weak counter trend trade, the breakouts tend to fail. So what this does is, with it enabled, well, it's always enabled, but with this update, it'll give you a reason. It won't highlight it. It won't color it in, and it'll just like ignore the trade, because most of the time that's where it fails. So in the data, what I found that's where the weak points were in the system. We were getting a lot of B setups or mid-grade setups that were failing, but with this counter trend setup or filter, we were actually hitting them a lot more often by filtering them out. So we're actually, like today, yesterday, we end up getting that reversal. Today it didn't play out, but it does help. Let me see. Let me just check everything else. That was one of the biggest updates that I did, just to kind of get that a little bit stronger as far as getting more consistent on the mid grades. Like I said, this was actually a really weak area. It was right here. We did improve it. It was actually, I think, around 52% ish, and we improved it greatly. But like I said, everything's still there. So if you did want to take the counter trend trade, you can still take it. It's still there for you. All the data is there for you. But just the backtest data supports certain counter trend trades. It's not going to do it every single time. It's just there's ones where the criteria does not meet what it needs to be a valid trade. It's just going to ignore the trade. Still going to show everything the same. Just show you recommend no contracts and just have that. But everything, all the data is going to be there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think it kind of gets everything pretty much up to date. With the indicator, like I said, the data is all here. Everything's there. You can download everything. You can convert it and put it into the backtest and to look at all the data itself. Everything's there for you guys. And you can look over, each year, each month, everything's there. But yeah, this is with the updated settings and filters. And I think it's, it's greatly improved it.